One of the things that we know about race and economic structure is, I want to take you back to the classroom for just a moment, just so that you recall what economic systems are about. They are systems that are for producing and resource allocation and for distribution of goods and services. Typically, we talk about these three, mixed economies, capitalist economies, and planned economies. And we always talk about there not being a perfect one. Now, for those of you who have been in my classes, this is how I typically portray it. So, and I think, part of this conversation has become more relevant in the last few days, maybe. But we certainly see the dichotomies of economies, and they're mixed. But I want to recall that we always talk about in economic structure and economic systems several different features, including product and factor markets, prices. We talk about national income, product and expenditure. We talk about monetary policy, money and inflation, and we talk about international trade, finance, and investment. So where does race come in? Race comes in when we're typically talking about the distribution of income and wealth, and when we're talking about political economy, legal institutions, and property rights. So this is race. This is where race typically enters the conversation. That's if the professor is doing a good job. So recently, we've had a number of different papers that touch on race and ethnicity very centrally, and this is a bit of a departure from the typical economics field. One is Acemoglu, Robinson, and Johnson, 2013, Why Nations Fail. It was a New York Times bestseller. Most economics books are not New York Times bestsellers, so, this is one that everybody might have read or seen. But what it says is that colonial institutions change the outcomes for different countries, for different economic systems. And this is one of the most explicit treatments of race and ethnicity embedded in institutions for a blockbuster economics book. So it was quite surprising to see, and very well done, by the way. It's a really good read. In my work, in a paper that I published in the Journal of Economic Growth, I looked at violence and economic activity. So what I looked at was African American patentees to see what happened to them once riots, lynchings, and segregation laws were imposed on them, and I compared them to their white counterparts who were also patenting. And what I found was a disproportionate impact on African American inventors. And this was just one metric. It was just an unusual way to use patent data. We see the same thing, say, in newspapers, for example. And the reason I put this up here, not just for sort of plugging my own work, but I think it's salient now. In the sense that once violence gets started, it has not only the social impact that we're used to seeing almost immediately, there is an economic impact that can last for 10, 15, 50 years. And in the case of patents, we still haven't reached the level of patents per capita for African Americans since 1899. So this is the last time when we had a period of riots and violence, large scale, that turned into laws and cost the country dearly. In a recent policy piece, the Roosevelt Institute has several authors, Flynn, Warren, Wong, and Holmesburg, who wrote Rewriting the Racial Rules. And this is a very good piece, I think, and it looks at the roots of and addressing racial and economic inequality. And they look at 6 different features: income, wealth, education, criminal justice, health, and democratic participation. And I think that it's well done in the sense that it not only looks at the roots and the origins of the problem, it offers solutions. So this is a really good read if you have a chance to read it.